how challenging has this week been with no scrimmage on Saturday and with guys just trying to press through that last non-game week?
Yeah, I think every time I've ever coached, you get in that first, especially that first day of school. There's always a lull when you have practice that first day. And I thought our kids came out with some good energy today. Showed them some things, as we're kind of starting to introduce, Campbell a little bit at this point, as well as, obviously still competing against our offense and trying to fine tune our stuff. So I thought they had good energy today. Yesterday was a solid practice. Early in the week, I thought we were a little bit down coming off that scrimmage on Saturday. For us, it's just trying to get guys healthy to game week, and then obviously, COVID issues and some of those things that arise. So it's just trying to figure out, what that roster is really going to look like for Saturday. I feel pretty optimistic that we'll have the majority of our guys ready to roll. And just really, more than anything, trying to focus on fine-tuning our system at this point, making sure we don't beat ourselves. We're on the same page, communication standpoint. The whole defense is in at this point, and trying to get some of those younger guys maybe caught up to speed with where some of those older guys that have played in a lot of games are at. But I thought today was a solid day. We need to finish with a good solid, be more of a mental day tomorrow. We'll get after it a little bit, and then obviously we have the mock game on Saturday.
With having Jack just in here a moment ago, new coach at the position, with having Corey in that position last year, a guy that was also a former defensive coordinator, is it helpful having someone with that kind of experience on the back end there?
For sure. I think anytime you can hire an experienced coach that's been in your shoes, Coach Curtis has obviously done it longer than I have. Coach Platoon had as well. So, but the biggest thing I think with Coach Curtis in his role is it takes a certain level of humility to come in and understand you've been in charge for 20 years, and now we have a great staff though. There's really there's not a lot of ego on our defensive staff. We all want to win. We all want to put our kids in the best situation to be successful and make plays. There's a lot of similarities with what we do on defense that what Coach Curtis has done in the past, and then there's some new stuff and new ideas that he's brought that fit our system that we can evolve. And then if there's things that don't quite fit, I got to figure out what's too much and what the proper give and take is. But it's really, really hard to have that level of humility, in my opinion. I haven't been in his shoes, but to be able to come in and I'm gonna learn how you guys do it, but then also know that I want input provided. There's certain areas, even though he coaches the back end, he's coached safeties, he coached outside linebackers the last 4 or 5 years at Tulane, and so there's certain areas of whether it's fundamentals or scheme that he can add, even though it's not in his position room. And so I think that's always a positive. Coach Aldridge coordinated before he came here. Obviously, we'd worked together, so it's us as a staff trying to put our kids in the best situation to be successful. And so it's been a huge addition for us to have Coach Curtis in the room with us for sure.
Last one for me, then I'll get to the guys. I hear mock game on Saturday. I know Coach had said earlier this week there wasn't going to be another scrimmage. What is is it a scrimmage, or is it what are you guys going to do on Saturday?
No, it'll be a mock game. A run through, so to speak. We did it our first year here. We didn't do it last year, just due to some circumstances, outside of football. But it'll be a mock game, just going through all the scenarios of kicking game, all the different scenarios what ifs that happen in a game that you want to make sure, the young men in our program are prepared for. So, we won't go live again before our first game tackling. I think the premium right now is fundamentals, getting our kids lined up, making sure we're in shape, and getting the best players we can to the game on Saturday. And so I think that's it's a fine balance. Do you tackle enough before the first game? Last year I think we tackled twice, maybe 3 times before our first game against Western Kentucky, and I don't think it was a big issue. So I've been places where we tackle more. Me and Coach Freeze and I are kind of on the same wavelength on that. We need to tackle once or twice, and then we got to get our best players, offense and defense, to the game. And so I just think it's a balance with how you have to prepare for that week one for sure.
Let's go to John from a Sea of Red.
Scott, from looking at a little bit of practice I've been able to see, it appears you've got more depth there at linebacker. I know that's something you all have been kind of building for and hoping for the last few seasons. Is that something that you would agree with? Do you feel like you have enough guys there that you don't have to have an Anthony Butler playing 95% of your snaps at linebacker this year?
Yes, absolutely. Last year, John, we went into the season and essentially played 4 linebackers. 2 of the 4 had torn labrums. One was Anthony Butler, and one was Aaron Pierre, who started every game and was on scout team the year before. So I would say our experience and depth going into last year was my biggest concern. Part of the reason why we switched and I went back to coaching linebackers was just because I felt like I needed to put that on me and so obviously Story Jackson, Ahmad Walker, and then Tyron's getting back to healthy. The labrum's not an issue though. Aaron Pierre, so that's 4 guys right there that we feel confident. And then Rashad Harding, who's played a lot of snaps. Carl's played a lot of snaps. So you're talking about 6 guys that you feel really comfortable with in that room. And then you got some young guys like Jerome Jolly. I think will be a really good linebacker at some point in his career. He's played it for 6 months now. So I think the depth right there is key. I'll be honest with you, John. I have no idea how we got through the season last year with our linebacker depth. I mean, we were 4 guys, one of which was a walk-on before the season started, and we somehow scratched and clawed to make it through. I mean, there were games where we had 3 linebackers rotating for those 2 spots, and you're just one injury away from wondering how are we going to get off the field. So trying to get some of those new guys. The good thing's been Tyron, Carl, and Aaron have gotten a lot of reps. So we've tried to cut back their reps this camp to get Ahmad, Rashad, Story, some of those guys more reps, just to try to get them caught up to speed, from the checks to the adjustments to the alignments to the fits and all those different things. So, I think we have more competition than we've ever had in that room, and excited because I think we have different types of guys. Anthony Butler was a really good first and second down linebacker, but it would have been great to get him off the field on third down, but we just didn't really have that flexibility, I felt like, within our depth at that point last year. So, he was playing, like you said, 70, 80 snaps, which is it's tough to do in college football with the pace of play these days.
Damien?
Scott, you brought up the fact that you got Story Jackson and Rashad Harding through the transfer portal, and you look at Anthony Butler the year before. And how essential has the transfer portal been for the linebacker core in the last couple of years, just to make sure you get the depth there to allow like these younger guys like a Jerome Jolly, Micah Glaze, and a few of those other guys to really develop and learn, especially guys who've moved from safety down to linebacker?
Yeah, I think it's huge. All those guys you mentioned are going to be, have been or will be, we feel like, key contributors to us. And I think, like I said the other week when we got on, I think, the big thing is, when a guy goes in the portal evaluating, figuring out if they're a good fit for us, not just us as a football program, but as importantly us as a university, and making sure that their core values are in line with what we're about, and then looking at the football aspect as well, obviously. So I think all those guys are going to be able to play, help us early, and it'll help us continue to develop some of those younger guys versus throwing them into the spotlight maybe too soon.
Go ahead, John.
And you look at a guy like Ahmad. I mean, what has he been able to do that? Obviously, he's going to play some this year and play a lot probably. But what has he been able to do? Back in the spring or the summer or in camp that has gotten you to where you trust him enough to put him out there on Saturday?
Number one, he's the most physical linebacker we have. He's when he hits you, you know about it. And for a freshman to play with that level of just tenacity and physical toughness that he brings to the table, it's just a different dynamic in our room. He's got a very high football IQ. He has very natural instincts as a linebacker. I think the biggest thing, in the spring was just cleaning up the technique and fundamental aspect, and we're still working on some of those things. But very rarely does he make the same mistake twice. He's a guy that he can learn really quick. There's some growing pains, obviously, when you have a freshman out there, but the upside is tremendous, and I think he's just going to continue to get better and better and be a big-time player for this program for years to come.
Damien?
I kind of want to piggyback off that question. And with Rashad battling the injury in the spring and not being able to play in the spring game, and you giving Ahmad a lot of the first string reps, how much did that help accelerate his growth and confidence in being able to play at this level?
Well, confidence is not an issue for him. I'll tell you that right now. He's one of the most confident young men on this whole football team. I think, when you come from the program that he came from, and he was the alpha dog at that program, and there's no doubt. And so, from day one, when he's walked in these doors, he's made sure everybody knew his name by how he's worked, how he's prepared. So I don't think that had a confidence factor whatsoever, because he expects to start and expects to be the guy for us. But I think from a mental and physical stance, as far as getting those reps, obviously that was huge. There were some key mistakes. He gave up a couple long runs, one in particular in that spring game, and that's why I had to tell him after. You can't make those freshman mistakes. We got to learn from them, and he has. And so, just excited to see what he's going to do when the lights come on, because I think he's got a different level of intensity and focus, and love his leadership. He doesn't act like a freshman on the field. I mean, he understands he's playing a alpha position, and he's an alpha male, and our guys in the program don't see him as a freshman. I can tell you that right now. I mean, they see him as a guy that's a seasoned vet that knows what he's doing, because they see the plays that he's made when he's been in there.
Some of the injuries at corner in camp, how is the depth looking out there right now? How would you say that it's shaken out? Are you going to have to play some younger guys there, or you feel good about what you've got heading into?
Yeah, I mean, I feel good about what we have. I think we'll be almost fully healthy going into that first week. As far as younger guys, I mean, really the only younger guy out there would be Mo and Biggs, and Mo, I love how he competes. I mean, he is as competitive of a guy as we have in this program. I mean, for a freshman to come in with that just maturity and mental focus is huge. So I think he's going to add value and be able to play for us. I think we'll get the rest of those guys back ready. I think Coach Huntley's done a really good job trying to be smart. I mean, the tempo and the type of offense that we play with puts a lot of physical stress on our corners. There's a lot of deep balls being thrown in practice, and so he knows that. And so we got to be smart and monitor those guys' reps, because it's our job as coaches to develop them, but it's also our job as coaches to know when we need to hold a guy to get him to game day. And I think, understanding that the moment doesn't always define us in practice. If it's better to hold a guy's reps here so we can make sure he's fresh and healthy down the road. And I think Coach Huntley, being a seasoned coach, really understands that. And so, it's about getting these guys ready to go and that group healthy, feeling fresh on Saturday.
John?
Looking at a guy like Story Jackson, I know he didn't join you guys until this summer, but after 3 weeks of practice and being with you guys for a little while, do you think things are starting to slow down for him a little bit, and he's able to, go out there and actually play some football?
Yeah, I think we're right at that point, John. I think you got install, and so it's constantly, I'm making a mistake, but then I've got to learn something else that's going in. I'm making a mistake, and so it's kind of the 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And, really we got through Saturday, the install was done, so now everything is just stuff he's already done. Same thing, he doesn't often make the same mistake twice. He's the best note taker in our room. He came here for one reason. It's a business decision for him, and he's approaching it that way. And so I think it's starting to slow down. I think every practice it starts to get a little bit slower, and it's not going to be a finished product, with him or with Ahmad. Some of those guys, I expect, when Aaron Pierre goes in the game, or Tyron Dupree, I expect them to execute, alignments and base calls at a really, really high level. They've played enough snaps that those things shouldn't happen. But if you're a new guy, there's going to be some mistakes. There's going to be a growing process, but it's my job as a coach, it's our job as coaches to put them in situations where they can be successful early on, and then, obviously confidence comes through repetition. So I think he's right at that point, though, John, where it's, really starting to slow down, and I think this next week, as we start to narrow down, I mean, in fall camp we have every call in the playbook getting called. You're never going to call that much volume during the course of a game. You're going to narrow your game plan to, 5 to 6 calls per personnel grouping, et cetera. So then it starts to get a little bit simpler for them just to be able to line up and play with technique and fundamentals.
All right, last one, Damian.
This guy I was going to ask you, did Story playing in the spring season, albeit only 3 games, in terms of arriving on campus for the summer, was he already in shape and ready to hit the weight room with Dom and those guys to really help him get accelerated in the learning curve?
Well, I mean, Damian, you've seen his body, right? I mean, yeah, he was in shape when he got here. Dom's really good, but we didn't do it that fast. He's a weight room guy. I mean, that's what he'll tell you. He doesn't have a ton of hobbies. He'll tell you, Coach, he loves the weight room. He loves lifting. He loves training, eating right. So, but that's what you expect from an All-American. You know what I mean? I mean, that's what you expect. It doesn't matter what level. Just to be an All-American, that's a pretty big deal. And so, he came in relatively good shape. Obviously, there's a little bit of that transition time when you're not with a program, that your training's probably not the same. But he was in pretty good shape when he got here. And so, I think the biggest adjustment was just the mental piece of learning our system.